Am I the butthole for demanding my colleagues use my offensive name? Throwaway because I am a lurker and don't have an actual Reddit account. So, I work for an international company with many different nationalities. Recently I have been assigned to a mainly American team, which means I have to work weird hours due to time zones, but I'm a single guy with no kids, so I can work around that. I live/work in Germany, and prior to this team I only used English in writing and spoke German with everyone. We had a couple of virtual meetings and I noticed some of the Americans mispronouncing my name. They called me Mr. Birch. So I corrected them. My surname is Bick, Czech noun meaning a whip, happens to be pronounced just like bitch. My name is not English and doesn't have English meaning. Well, turns out the Americans felt extremely awkward about calling me Mr. Bitch, and using first names is not a norm here. HR got in touch with me and I just stated that I don't see a problem with my name, and I don't feel insulted by being called Mr. Bitch. I mean, the German word for customer sounds like vagina in Czech, it's just how it is. Well, apparently the American group I'm working with is demanding a different representative. They also work from home and feel uncomfortable saying curse words, my name, in front of their families, but due to the time zone issues the German office is having problems finding a replacement for me. Nobody wants to work a 2 a.m. to 7 a.m. office shift from home. So management approached me asking to just accept being called Mr. Birch, but honestly I am a bit offended. A coworker even suggested that I have grounds for discrimination complaint. Am I the butthole for refusing to answer to a different name? Edit: due to common question, using first names is not our company policy due to different cultural customs. For many, me included, using first names with very distant coworkers is not comfortable, and the management ruled that using surnames and titles is much more suitable for professional environment. I am aware that using first names is common in the USA. Please mind that while the company is international, the US office is just one of the branches. Edit: 2. Many people are telling me to suck it up and change my name with a pronunciation, because many American immigrants did that. So I just want to remind you, I am not an immigrant. I do not live in the US, nor do I intend to. I deal with 10-ish Americans in video calls and a few dozen in email communication. Then I also deal with hundreds of others at my job: French, Indian, Japanese, Russian. I live in Germany and am from Czech Republic. I know this is a shock for some, but really, Americans are a minority in this story. Edit: 3. I deal with other teams as well. Everyone calls me Mr. Bick. Having one single team call me by my first name, which is impolite, or by changing my name is troublesome because things like Birch really do sound different. Someone mentioned Beach, which still sounds odd, but it's better than Birch. Right now I have 3 options as last resort, if they absolutely cannot speak my name and if German office doesn't reassign me. 1. Use Beach. 2. Use Mr. Representative. 3. Switch to German, which is our office's official language. Nobody has issues with Bick when speaking German. Yeah, the last option is kind of silly. I know for a fact not everyone in the team speaks German and we would still use English in writing. Edit: 4. Last edit. Dear Americans, I know you use first names in business/work environment. Please understand that the rest of the world is not America. Simply using English for convenience sake does not mean we have to follow specific American customs. NTA. Sorry you even have to deal with this. American adults are often overgrown children. Source: I am American. Lol, you don't have to give us a source, we have all seen how Americans have been acting recently. Recently since 1776. Source: also American. To paraphrase Europeans, that is recently. Lol, true. The church in our Italian village was last renovated in the 1770s, when it was already 500 years old. There's something that always sticks in my head from another post about the differences in what we consider old. Someone was talking about a tour they were on, in Italy, maybe? And the tour guide said something along the lines of ignore that tower, it was a 10th century edition. I haven't seen any man-made thing, in person, in my life from the 10th century. My brother, who was a US expat living in the UK for a while, heard a joke that he shared with my family. Q. How do you tell the difference between an Englishman and an American? A. The Englishman thinks 100 miles is a long distance, the American thinks 100 years is a long time. It's so true. I have had British friends who would only go to certain places a couple times a year because it was so far away, which meant it was a 2-hour drive. A 2-hour drive is well within my day trip criteria. I live in the DC area, so my husband's commute is 2 hours, pre-pandemic. Now he works from home, but then I had another friend from York who came across a skeleton while renovating a basement, which was from around the 1500s. Like what? I know what you mean. I visited the USA a few times and traveled to lots of states, and I was interested to see how some buildings were classed as very old when they were built only about 200 years ago. We have Roman remains here too. No one takes any notice of these things though. It's like, oh yeah, that's been there 2,000 years, May. This is weird, though. I'm certainly an overgrown child, and I'd consider it one of life's little redeeming joys if I got to call someone at work Mr. Bitch. I would inevitably annoy and offend original post by giggling on the conference call. That's a form of buttholeness that's a lot easier to wrap my head around than these people's whiny squeamishness. Also an overgrown child. I would Mr. Bitch this. Mr. Bitch that. Taking to Mr. Bitch would be the highlight of my day. That bitch had a great idea today. I really like that bitch. I assume it's more related to working from home with kids around. But this would be a prime learning opportunity to show children to be respectful of people's names even if they sound inappropriate or funny, because that's how you should behave in the real world. Boom. I'm a teacher with a lot of Vietnamese kids. Every semester I'll get a Phuc NGO. I use it matter-of-factly and give a super glare to anyone who even thinks of giggling. Eventually it calms down. If teenagers can learn to say F no without giggling, your adult coworkers can. Cultural side note, Vietnamese have historical reasons for having few choices for names. Half of them are Nguyen/ is the closest I can get. For Phuc you have to say it like you'd think, but then you swallow the last K, leave your tongue at the top of your mouth. Honestly, when I read the title of this post I thought it was the Oakland student writing in to complain about her professor asking her to anglicize her name. I don't understand how anyone could teach in a place like Oakland and still act so childishly with Asian names. Yep. Her name is, in part, Phuc Bui. He claimed it sounded like F-boy. My understanding is that it does not sound like that, but more like Phu Bui. Web link. Easy solution, have the meeting in German. Americans can't handle that? Well, then original post can request a different team that's qualified to work internationally like adults. If they don't want to learn German, they could absolutely have a conversation with their children about international names, cultural sensitivity, and respect. ETA, alternate solution, they can switch schedules so that the American team is having meetings in the middle of the night when their kids are asleep and original post can resume normal business hours. They could absolutely have a conversation with their children about international names, cultural sensitivity, and respect. Taking the time to actually parent their children? How dare you think that's an acceptable course of action? /SOP is definitely not the butthole here. If it all really comes down to not wanting their kids to hear a person's name that sounds like a bad word, that is purely on them and not op. Honestly feel the same. If it were me, he'd be offended for a completely different reason than not using his name. I need the Craig meme. If I could call a guy Mr. Bitch at work, I would be so happy. NTA, that is most definitely a discrimination complaint. I would send HR an email and make them put in writing why you can't use your legal name. Something like, "Hello HR, I am just emailing to clarify a phone call I had with you regarding my legal name, your name. It's my understanding from the discussion I had with you that you are refusing to allow me to use my legal name and to instead use a fake name, Mr. Birch, because my legal, native Czech name is offensive. Is this correct? Thank you. Your name." Thank you for the comment. But just to clear up, HR just told me the concerns of the Americans. I am not in trouble. They cannot force me to use my first name or respond to Birch. The company is just now an awkward place because the Americans don't want to work with me and the German office doesn't have a replacement. They don't want to work with me due to my name, which one of my coworker feels just calls for discrimination complaint. And the name is native Czech. I am actually Czech, born and raised. I just live/work in Germany for now. If the company allows the Americans not to work with you because of this, they are still being discriminatory and cannot do that. Just amend above letter to say my understanding that colleagues are to be permitted to reduce or avoid working with me unless they can use a fake name, Mr. Birch, because my legal, native German name is offensive. Is this correct? It is discrimination. This gives me the same vibes as the parents who asked for a different nurse for their child because her dark skin would scare the baby. I don't know what the resolution was, but being uncomfortable with someone's identity, your name is part of your identity, isn't a legal or ethical reason to deny someone work. This was an anecdote from a family friend who was a nurse at the same place. It didn't make the news or anything. Lol, what? That is the most ludicrous racist assertion I have heard in a while. Yeah, people using their infant as an excuse for their own fear and prejudices is pretty vile. I don't think they were dumb enough to think their child who can't even speak yet has picked up their racist beliefs, or that black people are inherently equivalent to the monster under the bed for kids, but you never know. I mention this because this incident took place in an area with a large population of Jamaican immigrants. So unless this baby was never taken outside the house, this was pre-COVID, they had definitely seen black people in public before. My sister was once hospitalized, and when my dad showed up he got irate with the staff and demanded a female nurse because he didn't want my sister to get AIDS. The implication that all male nurses are homosexual and all homosexuals have AIDS, my mom had him moved to the lobby. They were recently divorced, sister and I were mortified, and we were kids. I could totally see him doing the same thing had it been any person of color. Should change to my legal, native Czech name. Sounds offensive. The name itself is not offensive. It sounds like an English word that is offensive. Can't they just call you Mr. Beach? I'm a Slavic language speaker, and beach and bic sound almost the same to me, much more than birch anyway, and beach is a nice, neutral word. That should work? Someone else commented this, and I honestly haven't thought of that. If no other solution is found, I would be willing to go by beach. It's still different, but not as crazy different as birch sounds to my ears. Vowel length changes meaning in Czech, but bic/beach with long E luckily doesn't mean anything. If being called Mr. B isn't a problem, it's an option too? They're being children when this could be an educational moment for them and their families about appreciation for multicultural diversity. But that's way too much to ask for, right? Geez, American counterparts need to put some respect on your name. Lol. NTA. There are plenty of American surnames that could be taken offensively: Butts, Dicks, Weiner, etc., and no one asks them to go by a different name. It's common practice to close a door if you have a meeting while you're working from home anyways. It should be pretty easy for your coworkers to call you by your last name without offending their families. Edit to add lots more names: Dick, Raper, Wanker, Boob, Cox, Lowbutts, Gaylord, Penix, Cummings, Dickman, a vagina. This comment right here. They're discriminating against you. Your name is your name. Also, like the other comment about HR sending round an email detailing how people should correctly pronounce your name. Frankly, I'm astonished HR didn't shut this down right away. Edit, not the butthole. NTA, agreed. I had to make collections calls to a Mr. Raper for months, and sure, I had to take a moment to steel myself every time I called that number because boy, I did not like having to say that name, much less say that name while demanding overdue payment. It was part of the job, and in the end it was just the guy's name. Raper is a common surname around where my mom grew up, and it always weirds me out driving past the town cemetery, filled with headstones that say Raper over and over. Even knew a girl growing up with that last name who insisted on going by the nickname Cat instead of Catherine. My God, if they can call for Cat Raper over the school intercom, these people can say Mr. Bitch once in a while on a work call. Oh dang, I know a family with this last name as well, and they got so much crap for it throughout school and stuff. Shaking my head. One of my friends from that family told me it has absolutely nothing to do with what people think it does, but instead comes from like early English, I think, and means rope maker. It is just a different or bastardized spelling of roper that happened over time, but Americans are stupid as F. Fun fact, canola oil comes from a plant called rapeseed, which derives from the Latin word for turnip, ripum. Officially they call it canola to differentiate it from other varieties of the plant. Natural rapeseed is very acidic, and canola is a contraction of Canada oil, low acid, but the fact that no one would buy it if the bottle said rape oil probably has something to do with it as well. I don't think that analogy works very well, since rapeseed oil is already an existing product. The thought of someone calling for cat raper over the school intercom had me giggling. LOL, my dad's best friend is called Mr. Raper. He always introduces himself as B. Raper, name, not occupation. Lol, we have this last name and we have just embraced the crappiness of it, to be honest. Like my dad's old Letterman jacket has A. Raper on the back, which is kind of hilarious in my opinion. Anytime anyone hesitates to pronounce it or tries to say rapper instead, I'm just like, nope, it is pronounced exactly how it looks. My mom joked that if I was boy that they were going to name me Willie Robin Raper, which is horribly hilarious. I don't know, you get a dark sense of humor with this name. That said, I do look forward to getting married someday, lol. Plot twist, you marry into the Cox family. Obviously we would hyphenate that, Cox Raper has a nice ring to it, lamau. Thank you for watching. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube. And share them with your friends. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. We welcome your comments below. Another of our videos will begin shortly.